In the beginning, all was dense and perfect, a single breath held tight. You feel the slow exhale of time, the first unraveling of symmetry. Entropy begins not with a bang, but a quiet drift toward freedom. Everything that was once compact now reaches for space. You, too, are part of that long exhale. Close your eyes and drift back to the beginning. Not a human beginning, or even the birth of a star, but to the very first breath of the cosmos. Before time could stretch its limbs, before space had room to grow, everything, every speck of matter, every law of physics, was curled into a single, unfathomably hot point. A dot so dense it held the entire orchestra of existence, silent and waiting to be played. And then, not with a roar, but with a sigh too vast to hear, the universe began to expand. This was the beginning of entropy, not chaos, not destruction, but a gentle loosening, a soft release of tension held too long, like opening a clenched hand and letting the warmth escape. The universe began to stretch, slowly, then faster. Its perfect symmetry dissolved into movement. From something so orderly came motion. From stillness came change. And in that change came possibility. Imagine steam rising from a cup of tea, spiraling upward, never quite the same pattern twice. That is the shape of the cosmos unfolding, a grand dance of energy, light, and time. The first moments were filled with light, but not the kind that touches your skin. This was primordial light, raw, radiant heat. Particles collided, joined, flew apart. Tiny fragments of order, surrounded by growing space. The early universe was a furnace of becoming. In the first second, energy became matter. Quarks joined into protons, electrons danced nearby, and the first atoms began to take form like dew, condensing in the morning air. Hydrogen, the simplest, the lightest, came first. Then helium. No complexity yet, only the building blocks. Order forming briefly from heat, but always entropy followed. Because with every burst of light, with every collision and every expansion, the universe spread its warmth thinner, its order more diluted. The second law of thermodynamics had quietly arrived, not as a rule, but as a gentle direction. It whispered, energy spreads. Always. Order drifts toward disorder. This is the way of things. And so, the universe, like breath on a mirror, began to fade in uniformity, making room for diversity. That fading gave us stars. Billions of years after the first breath, gravity gathered gas into brilliant spheres of fire. Stars ignited, burning hydrogen into heavier elements. They forged complexity from simplicity for a while. But even stars must obey the soft pull of entropy. They burn their fuel, they shine, they grow old. In their aging, they become more chaotic. Their cores hot and crowded, their outer layers unstable. Eventually, they collapse or explode, spreading their ashes, carbon, iron, gold, into the quiet sea of space. From this stardust, you are made. You, the listener lying still in the hush of night, are built from the fragments of spent stars. Every cell in your body is a page in Entropy's book, written not in words, but in molecules that remember the journey from order to motion. Entropy is not just cosmic, it is close. It is the warmth leaving your tea, the slow yellowing of old paper, the fading scent of a flower pressed in a book. It is the reason your memories feel like smoke, soft-edged, drifting backward. But none of this is bad. Entropy is not the enemy of life. It is its frame. Without the drift from order to complexity, there would be no growth, no stars, no you. Because to change, to become, there must first be a loosening. Imagine a tightly wound ball of yarn, perfect, smooth, predictable, but static. Now picture that yarn gently unraveling, spooling into new shapes, new patterns, a nest, a sweater, a tapestry. That is entropy, not destruction, but transformation. And tonight, as you lie still, your body exhales warmth into the air. Each breath, a quiet surrender to this soft law. Your heartbeat slows, your thoughts loosen. You are becoming part of the exhale again, the same exhale that began it all. Entropy moves with patience. It is the reason heat flows, why candles melt, why moments cannot be relived. And yet, within this gentle unraveling, we find moments of beauty, of fleeting stillness, like now. You are here, in this moment, hearing these words, your mind floating gently between knowing and dreaming. The breath of the universe continues, a long, soft sigh, expanding into silence. And somewhere, an ice cube melts on a quiet counter, its edges softening, its shape giving way to something new. What can that simple melting teach you about the shape of time, about the direction of the universe, about what it means to let go? Let your thoughts follow that quiet drip. You watch an ice cube melt on a warm kitchen counter. Its shape fades, its edges soften, and so begins your lesson. This simple act carries the truth of the cosmos. Entropy is not destruction, but the quiet equalizing of energy. The universe prefers the melted to the still. You stand in a quiet kitchen. Outside, the sun filters in, casting warm gold across the counter. On a small white plate, an ice cube waits, still translucent, perfect in its sharp geometry. For a moment, you simply watch. Its edges are crisp, its angles clean, a frozen sculpture of symmetry. But already, change begins. A shimmer along the base, a softening of shape, a tiny bead of water forming and sliding down the side. You are witnessing entropy, not in theory, but in action. The melting of ice seems simple, ordinary, unimportant. But within that transformation, from solid to liquid, from order to fluidity, lives a profound truth. The universe moves toward balance, not with force, but with patience. The ice cube is cold, its molecules locked in place, arranged in quiet rows. The air around it is warm, molecules dancing, buzzing, eager to move. Heat always flows from warm to cool, always. It slips into the ice, not in a rush, but as a gentle offering, and the ice receives it, reluctantly surrendering its structure, its crystal discipline. The boundary between solid and liquid softens, edges blur. What was once rigid begins to yield. This is the second law of thermodynamics, not as an equation, but as a quiet act on a countertop. Energy spreads, differences dissolve, systems seek equilibrium, a kind of peace. And peace, in physics, means sameness. The warm air gives, the cold ice accepts, and over time, they meet in the middle. Entropy is the measure of that meeting, of how much energy is shared, how much order is lost. At first, the ice cube resists. It clings to its form, a tiny fortress of low entropy. But as the minutes pass, resistance fades. The shape buckles inward, edges slant. A tiny pool begins to form beneath it. And in this simple act, you see the pattern of the cosmos. Everything moves from structured to scattered, from sharp to soft, from one clear shape to many possibilities. There are more ways to be a puddle than a cube. A cube is precise. It requires alignment, constraint, symmetry. But a puddle, it can stretch or shrink, ripple or spread, follow the tilt of the surface, reflect the light in endless ways. This is entropy at its heart, not chaos, but freedom. The molecules in the ice cube were once locked into place, each one neatly arranged, like soldiers in formation. But now they are free to roam, to slide past one another, to find new places to be. And the universe favors freedom. That's why things melt, why heat disperses, why energy never flows in reverse. Not because it can't, but because it is overwhelmingly unlikely. Order is rare, disorder is common, and the world, left to itself, drifts naturally toward the common. In your body, the same principle hums. You take in food, compact, ordered fuel. And with every breath, every heartbeat, you break it down, release the heat, spread the energy. You are a living engine of entropy, transforming structure into motion, temperature into balance. And yet, you hold it back for a while. You resist disorder long enough to grow, to think, to love. But in the background, entropy waits, not as a villain, but as a river, carrying all things toward stillness. Back in the kitchen, the ice cube is almost gone. What remains is a small, cool puddle, surrounded by droplets that catch the sunlight and scatter it in tiny rainbows. The cube has vanished, but something more fluid, more free, has taken its place. There is no tragedy here, only transformation. The energy that melted the ice hasn't disappeared. It now flows gently in the water, spreads into the air, whispers across the surface of the counter. This too is part of the story. Energy is never lost, only rearranged. The ice cube's coolness still exists, just elsewhere, in softer forms. And when you press your fingertip to the puddle, you feel it. A delicate cold, lingering, a memory of order, fading. This melting mirrors everything you know. Mountains crumble, memories fade, cities wear down. Even stars must burn through their fuel, spilling light into space until they are husks of themselves. Nothing escapes entropy, but everything participates in it. Gracefully, if we let it. You are not a passive observer. Your body melts in its own way. It warms the bed you lie in, releases heat with every breath, trades order for comfort. In sleep, your muscles relax, your thoughts wander. You loosen, like the cube. Entropy invites you to let go, not of meaning, not of beauty, but of the illusion of permanence. You learn, again and again, that softness is not weakness, that to melt is not to fail. That change is the most natural thing in the world. And so you rest. The puddle on the plate grows warmer. Soon it will be indistinguishable from the air around it. No borders, no lines, just molecules in harmony. The cube never really disappeared. It became something else, something more spread out, more open. And as you close your eyes, you feel yourself softening too. Edges blurring, thoughts flowing. Somewhere, a deck of cards is shuffled, its perfect order scattering into countless arrangements. What does it mean that randomness is easier than precision? That disorder is more likely than symmetry? Let that question settle beside you. Imagine a new deck, perfectly stacked, numbers and suits aligned. Then a shuffle, gentle, rhythmic, and order slips into surprise. This is entropy's whisper. There are many ways to be messy, but only one way to be perfectly neat. Your mind follows the shuffle, softening into randomness. A fresh deck of cards lies in your hands. 52 small rectangles, smooth and cool to the touch, stacked in perfect sequence. Hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades, each suit arranged from ace to king, every card exactly where it should be. There's a quiet satisfaction in this kind of order, a rare symmetry. It feels safe, predictable, and yet you shuffle. Fingers fold and bridge the cards together, air sighs between paper layers, and the order dissolves into possibility. You do not know what the new arrangement is, only that it is different, less structured, less expected, but somehow more alive. This is entropy, not just in molecules or stars, but in thought, in movement, in play. You've moved from one neat pattern to one of countless possible messes. There is only one way to stack a deck perfectly, but there are trillions of ways to mix it up. And with each shuffle, you drift further from that singular order, not because it's broken, but because it's vastly outnumbered. Entropy is the mathematics of unlikeliness, and order, for all its beauty, is incredibly unlikely. You feel this in daily life. A clean room, carefully arranged, slowly fills with stray socks and soft dust. A sandcastle, sculpted by hand, crumbles at the gentlest wave. No one intends the mess, but there are simply more ways for things to be scattered than arranged. This is the quiet bias of the universe, not a preference, but a probability. And so, your cards drift from the tidy to the tangled, not ruined, just varied. Each shuffle writes a new story, a fresh possibility. Somewhere in the infinity of configurations, the original order still exists, but the odds of finding it again by chance alone are smaller than a dream inside a dream. And so, entropy isn't destruction, it's the story of options outpacing structure. A single melody, drowned in a sea of remixes. Even in your mind, you feel it. Thoughts begin neatly, but drift into tangents. Ideas dissolve, words lose shape as sleep approaches. You try to hold a single thought, but like the card deck, it slips, rearranged by the shuffle of your brain. Entropy lives here too, in the patterns of memory, the blur of feelings, the fading of the day. You let it happen, because there's comfort in knowing that randomness has a rhythm. That disorder is not failure, but the background hum of all that is. And in that hum, you still find meaning. You can play a game with a shuffled deck. You can find patterns in the mess. You can make rules, draw hands, tell stories, even when nothing is aligned. Entropy does not erase structure. It invites new ones to form. From randomness comes creativity, new combinations, new ways of seeing. And even as the cards scatter, your hands remain gentle. You trust the motion. You welcome the unknown. The more the deck is shuffled, the less you expect what comes next. And in that unknowing, you find rest. You don't need the cards to be perfect again. You only need them to be possible, and they are. Somewhere, a queen of hearts waits quietly in a new place. The ace of spades lies beside a seven, and none of it is wrong, because randomness holds a kind of peace. The more things change, the more they let go of rigid forms. Like you, relaxing into the pillow, allowing your breath to scatter softly through the rhythm of night. Entropy is not a collapse, it is a letting go, a slow sigh from the universe that says, let it mix, let it move. And as your thoughts shuffle, you drift. Ideas rearrange, memories fade like suits in the deck, and your mind becomes a gentle tangle, ready for dreaming. There's a comfort in not knowing what card will come next, a soft curiosity. And somewhere, not far from here, a clock ticks forward. Time moves in one direction. But why? Why can you shuffle forward, but never back into perfect order? What is it about time that refuses to reverse?